And I'm going to change my opening this week because this day only comes once a year. And today is the day. It is Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. So, probably if you don't know me, you may be wondering, why do I have a little stuffed rodent by the name of Chucky? And we got Chuckies all across the U.S., scattered in locations that we've worked with across the USA. Everybody that we do an analysis for or we have a coaching agreement with, we give them a Chucky to be in their office. But here's the story. What about how did Chucky come into being as part of our brand here at CVC? Well, let me give you a little background. When I started coaching, I was looking for something to be a brand that we could build on. And for some reason, the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray stuck in my mind. Because if you've ever watched the movie Groundhog Day, this is where Bill Murray lived Groundhog Day over and over and over and over. But what he learned in Groundhog Day was that he had to change. And that's where we use the groundhog in our coaching practices because the whole concept is if you keep doing the same thing over and over and you're expecting different results, that's a form of insanity. And hopefully, Groundhog Day means it's time to make some changes. I know if you follow me on Facebook, hey, I was posting the live feed this morning from Pennsylvania where they pulled the groundhog out, held it up in the air. These people get up early in the morning up there. I don't think they've been up I think they've been up all night. I would say there's a few under the influence up there. At 5 o'clock in the morning, they're dancing on the stage. The band's playing the whole 9 yards. And then out marches the inner circle, and they jerk this groundhog out of his tree trunk that he lives in. And it's kind of funny because it's not the only Groundhog Day celebration. I know that there was a time that I believe the mayor of New York was at a Groundhog Day celebration, and they handed him the groundhog. And the groundhog bit him, and he dropped the groundhog right there on camera. So Groundhog Day, but again, it's the big day up in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania every year. And I start promoting this. I start because something about the groundhog, I think it's an inspiration. And you're right, Chuck, it is Happy Groundhog Day because I know somewhere around your house when you moved to Tennessee, hopefully Chucky made that trek with you and is sitting there in Pennsylvania, excuse me, in the Nashville, Tennessee market area today. So I told Cheryl and I told Josh, come up with some interesting groundhog stories today. So Josh, let's start with you. What's happened lately in the life of Josh and in the world of business that would fall under doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results and watching it with egg on your face?
Well, I just watched one customer get 2 door sets ordered wrong. They went twice to install the door sets, and they were both wrong.
Really? How much do those doors cost you?
$800 a piece.
So an $800 door twice,
$800 paperweight.
Yeah. And then, which you'll never find another fireplace. I mean, if we went into the warehouse at IBD, there's a skid of glass doors sitting there, glass enclosures that have been sitting there for many, many years that will never, ever find a home. So if you listen to me, if you like a bunch of glass doors.
Actually, I have someone for you.
You got someone for me?
You're not going to believe it, but it's Steve Sobsack's neighbor.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll do on that. So that's an interesting.
Tell Steve to call Nick for you because he's one of the largest stole dealers in the country.
Okay. So, question for you, Josh. How did this Groundhog Day occurrence happen? What was the big thing that drove it?
I'm still trying to dig into that because I want to see the order form, which I haven't seen yet, because I have it was measured twice. Both sets of measurements are the same. So I'm very curious as to what if it, because when I saw the pictures, it looked like it fit to me. So I'm trying to triage that currently because that just happened yesterday.
Okay. So again, would you say that someone probably didn't follow your system? Okay.
Oh,
And there's Chuck. And that Chuck brought up an interesting thing there, Cheryl, which was we have a groundhog outfit here, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And so one day I took that groundhog to outfit to the National Chimney Sweep Guild, and I had one of Chuck's guys put on that groundhog. We paraded him around the trade show, didn't we? Up there, Cheryl.
I had a ball with the kid. It was a lot of fun. I have never seen anybody sweat so much in my life when we took him out.
Yep, it was. That head for that groundhog is very warm. It's styrofoam. I put it on, and Cheryl actually wanted me to put it on today and do this broadcast, but hey, I just couldn't do it. You know, it's not far from
the
me.
top half, Jerry. We just need the helmet on or whatever. That's all we really need.
That way you
Yeah.
could show the big head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Cheryl, why don't you tell us a good groundhog story? And I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go grab the groundhog head and I'll just put it on for the broadcast. How's that?
Good.
There you go.
I'm going to take it out of funny, and take it into something that we all went through, and was COVID. That turned out for many, many people to be the biggest groundhog session that we've ever had. I've talked during coaching, I've talked to a lot of people, and their words were they didn't live, they existed during COVID. They got up, they existed that day, and they went to bed, and they did it over and over and over again. So in my lifetime, I think COVID has been the biggest Groundhog Day.
You think COVID's been the biggest groundhog day, huh?
It lasted for a year, 2 years.
Yep.
So if you ever, so I'm gonna take that back off. It's kind of hot, but just to show you, yeah, we got a big Chucky here too. And Chucky's, so you know, big Chucky's, he got a top hat. So he's sitting in my classroom here at our offices. So if you ever come, you can meet Big Chucky. It sits over there in the corner, right? So Josh, what about you? Got any more groundhog stories there from your side?
I just saw one salesman trying to put 4 different fireplaces into a house
Yeah.
without checking measurements.
So you're saying he made 4 separate trips?
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say this is wait a minute, Josh, you're a company that's got all these systems. So I'm presuming somebody made that critical third step, which is they didn't follow Josh's SOP.
It's 100%.
So when you saw this was happening, what was the thoughts in your mind?
I was pretty red. I was very angry actually because this person knows better. And if you had done the work, and what's even worse is I had done the work for him and specifically said what fireplace would work, for that to be ignored. And then they thought they could do the research on their own. And turns out they can't.
Got you covered.
And I've got one, Jerry, that me and you lived through.
And what was that, Cheryl?
The remodeling of the bathroom.
The remodeling of the bathroom. Let's talk about that groundhog episode, Cheryl. We actually did a show on it about the difference in 2 contractors. But this goes back to the mistake of choosing the wrong contractor, which I want to point out. She did, I didn't. This was all her deal. So Cheryl, let's tell them about the Cheryl groundhog incident.
We're not doing marriage counseling today.
Yeah.
And I can see the big Groundhog Day starting to. No. Yeah, I chose a contractor. I asked Jerry. He just didn't qualify an answer. But he came in, he'd done a lot of work. He gets here and it totally goes south. Something that was supposed to take 2 weeks took 4 months and trailed a little after that. He would hire one, fire one, want money. do this. Finally, we fired the contractor and kept one of the employees here and hired him to finish what he was doing. That was, yeah, that was my mistake, but it doesn't matter how much due diligence you do. If it's on the web, it's real, isn't it?
It really is. But it goes down again. The whole thing is, I feel that in life and in business, we learn lessons every single day. I think we all face failure over and over again. And failure to me is a form of tuition. But what we often don't do is we don't make the changes that we need to make to not repeat the same madness over again. And that's the problem. The problem is in life and in business, we have to go through the pain of change. And change is painful. As you go through life, and at the age Cheryl and I have become, and so you'll know Josh, near our age, we're old enough to be Josh's parents, but he's learning these lessons he goes through. But what are you learning from life? Cheryl, let me ask you that. What kind of lessons has life taught you at this point?
Like the lessons that I've gone through with a past marriage, especially, is to guard yourself a lot more. I've learned to be strong. I've learned to take care of myself if necessary. I've learned to take care of others. That's one lesson you and I learned quite well, was how to take care of elder people. And the thing about it is, you can't be perfect at it. You know, you think you're going into that and you can make it all work, but there was never, I've got to admit, there was never a perfect day. But you learned a lesson from every one of them. And that's basically why I started the books that I did, is because I had nobody here to help us at that time. So we learned by trial and error. And believe me, we made enough errors, but we did learn. So the next day would be better and the next would be better. But I'm with you. It's the lessons you don't learn that trip you up. If you go through them once, learn it and move on. It's not a failure completely if you learn from it.
So it's all about the tuition you pay and taking advantage of the tuition that you paid through these mistakes to learn to do better. Would you say that's kind of condensing what you're saying?
It is. And I'd like to inject one thing. When I'm interviewing people, one of my questions is, tell me about a time you failed. What happened, but what did you learn from it? Those are the three things. And you would be amazed at people, all of a sudden, the light goes off as to how they got there, what they did, and what they learned from it. Just
Yeah.
from one simple question.
Yeah. And Chuck's posted the wisdom. Wonder where you got that from, Chuck. But hey, he said here, systems and processes will only eliminate Groundhog Day if you inspect for what you expect. That's so true. So true, Chuck. People have to implement the systems, but they still have to inspect for what they expect. So, Josh, your young life, what have you learned in your lifetime? What would kind of give an encompassing view of this?
You're always fixing things, or you're always upgrading your systems constantly. And like Chuck said, you have to inspect for what you expect. I enjoy checklists for those reasons, and I can find myself continually making checklists. And part of my process can be, I have my checklists are digital. I can go in and see if the guy actually did his checklist before leaving. So.
Yeah. Groundhog incident, I was talking to one of my clients right before this call, and they had a waste call back this week. And you're going to love this one, Josh. They installed a lock top damper, but they couldn't complete the installation. And the reason they couldn't complete it was they didn't have an Allen wrench on the truck. And an Allen wrench. And instead of going to the hardware store and getting an Allen wrench, they shut the job down, came back, and they had the office rescheduled to go back to tighten a nut. What would be your response to that?
I wouldn't be within throwing distance of me.
That's it. You would get violent.
Yeah, you couldn't communicate to me. I would have said, go buy a set of Allen wrenches, and there's aces all over the area. And I guarantee you those things never happen in town ever.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Always.
It was at least a 45-minute drive.
That was it. But that calls for check, your truck audits, making sure you're properly equipped, going to jobs, checking your trucks, not assuming. And it goes back again to the exact words that Chuck said, which is you have to inspect for what you expect. And that's going to roll down to establishing the systems. And then it's going to roll out to inspecting to make sure that people are following your systems. Because here's what I know. Happiness as a manager comes today that people come to you to ask a question, and you can say, what does your SOP say about that? Josh, is that a good feeling when you can tell them that?
Oh, yes, it is.
It really, really is. So, folks, go ahead, Josh.
Some would say, what would Josh do?
Yeah, what would Josh do? Or as I've told you, what would Jerry do, right?
Yep.
Okay. So anyway, hey, this is going to be a short one today. I've got a John Maxwell training to go to near me this afternoon to keep up with my education and what I do. So we appreciate you joining us in here on Groundhog Day 2024. And please, please think about how to make your life better by learning from the mistakes that you make in life, and make yourself a promise that you're not going to repeat the same mistakes over again. If you keep the same processes going and expect different results, it's a legal definition of insanity, according to my buddy Josh there. Okay. So Chuck just added, going to Ace and buying the tool is a $200 loss of your profit eating to your bottom line. Exactly right, Chuck. They need to have that tool when they go out there. But again, what's the loss to them when they have to go back and reschedule the job? It's really ridiculous when you think about it. So, folks, appreciate you joining us here this week on the CVC Home Service Success Network. And we really look forward to you being here every week, whether you're watching live or on the replay. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of our broadcast. And keep in mind, if you need assistance in taking your business to the level that you envision, we're here at CVC Success Group to help you out. Just let us know and let's have a conversation. With that, we'll see you next time on our next episode. Have a fantastic